Hi everyone, my name's David Stein.
And my name is David Badanes.
So we were asked to read this for you today as part of this First Chapter Fridays program, which we think is just a really great program and a neat way for us to spend a little bit of time and read with you. I'm an elected trustee for the Board of Education for several years, but I was also born and grew up here, attending Belrose Avenue Elementary School, Middleville Junior High School, which is now Northport Middle School, and of course the high school. Had an amazing experience in all of those schools and with all of my teachers growing up, and I'm always so proud to come from this great place. Most importantly, I'm a dad also of two young kids who also love to read, and I've spent time practicing the story we're about to read on them, so I'm sure they're glad that that's over. We're reading a science fantasy fiction story today called Wild Robot by Peter Brown. For me, I really liked it because as I started reading it, it reminded me of two old movies that I really liked. One was called Short Circuit and the other Wall-E. Two great movies you could catch on demand sometime. But I also found it to be a really easy book to read because it has pretty short chapters, and I was able to pick it up easily and read a bit and put it down and not feel like I was walking away from it in the middle of a chapter.
And yes, although I did not attend Northport schools, my wife did, and I have two children now are both in the high school, and also they have a love of reading, and I've always had a love of reading, whether it be science fiction, whether it's sports books or novels, typically by Stephen King, is what I like to read as a teenager. And I guess here we go. We will be reading a couple of chapters from this book, and I hope you enjoy it. Thank you very much.
Okay, so here's the book, The Wild Robot. First chapter is the ocean. So our story begins on the ocean with wind and rain, thunder and lightning and waves. A hurricane roared and raged through the night, and in the middle of the chaos, a cargo ship was sinking down, down, down to the ocean floor. The ship left hundreds of crates floating on the surface, but as the hurricane thrashed and swirled and knocked them around, the crates also began sinking into the depths. One after another, they were swallowed up by the waves until only 5 crates remained. By morning, the hurricane was gone. There were no clouds, no ships, and no land in sight. There was only calm water and clear skies and those 5 crates lazily bobbing along the ocean current. Days passed, and then a smudge of green appeared on the horizon. As the crates drifted closer, the soft green shape slowly sharpened into the hard edges of a wild rocky island. The first crate rode to the shore on a tumbling, rumbling wave and crashed against the rocks with such force that the whole thing burst apart. Now, reader, what I haven't mentioned is that tightly packed inside each of the crates was a brand new robot. The cargo ship had been transporting hundreds of them before it crashed. Now, only 5 were left. Actually, only 4 were left because when that first crate crashed against the rocks, the robot inside shattered to pieces. The same thing happened to the next crate. It crashed against the rocks and robot parts flew everywhere. Then it happened to the next crate and the next. Robot limbs and torsos were flung onto the ledges, and a robot head splashed into a tide pool. A robot foot skittered into the waves. And then came the last crate. It followed the same path as the others, but instead of crashing against the rocks, it sloshed against the remains of the first 4 crates. Soon more waves were heaving it up out of the water. It soared through the air, spinning and glistening, until it slammed down onto a tall shelf of rock. The crate was cracked and crumpled, but the robot inside was safe. The island's northern shore had become something of a robot gravesite. Scattered across the rocks were the broken bodies of 4 dead robots. They sparkled in the early morning light, and their sparkles caught the attention of some very curious creatures. A gang of sea otters was romping through the shallows when one of them noticed the sparkling objects. The otters all froze. They raised their nose to the wind, but they smelled only the sea, so they cautiously crept over to the rocks to take a closer look. The gang slowly approached a robot torso. The biggest otter stuck out his paw and swatted the heavy thing and quickly jumped back. Nothing happened, so they wriggled over to a robot hand. Another brave otter stuck out her paw and flipped the hand over. It made a lovely clinking sound on the rocks, and the otters squealed with delight. They spread out and played with the robot arms and legs and feet. More hands were flipped. One of the otters discovered a robot head in the tidal pool, and they all dove in and took turns rolling along the bottom. And then they spotted something else. Overlooking the gravesite was the one surviving crate. Its sides were scraped and dented, and a wide gash ran across its top. The otters scampered up the rocks and climbed onto the big box. 10 furry faces poked through the gash, eager to see what was inside. What they saw was another brand new robot, but this one was different. It was still in one piece, and it was surrounded by spongy packing foam. The otters reached through the gash and tore at the foam. It was so soft and squishy, they squeaked as they snatched at the fluffy stuff. Shreds of it floated away on the sea breeze, and in all the excitement, one of their paws accidentally slapped an important little button on the back of the robot's head. Click. It took a while for the otters to realize that something was happening inside the crate, but a moment later they heard it. A low whirring sound. Eventually, everyone stopped and stared, and then the robot opened her eyes.
Chapter 3, The Robot. The robot's computer brain booted up. Her programs began coming online, and then, still packed in her crate, she automatically started to speak. Hello, I am Rosum, Unit 7134, but you may call me Roz. While my robotic systems are activating, I will tell you about myself. Once fully activated, I will be able to move and communicate and learn. Simply give me a task and I will complete it. Over time, I will find better ways of completing my task. I will become a better robot. When I am not needed, I will stay out of the way and keep myself in good working order. Thank you for your time. I am now fully activated. Chapter 4, The Robot Hatches. As you might know, robots don't really feel emotions, not the way animals do, and yet, as she sat here in her crumpled crate, Roz felt something like curiosity. She was curious about the warm ball of light shining down from above, so her computer brain went to work and she identified the light. It was the sun. The robot felt her body absorbing the sun's energy. With each passing minute, she felt more awake. When her battery was good and full, Roz looked around and realized that she was packed inside a crate. She tried to move her arms, but they were restrained by cords. So she applied more force. The motors in her arms hummed a little louder and the cords snapped. Then she lifted her hands and pulled apart the crate. Like a hatchling breaking from a shell, Roz climbed out into the world. Well, thank you for listening to us. We read the first couple of chapters of The Wild Robot. We hope you enjoyed it. And I always say, I hope you enjoy reading, and you should always read something you like in particular. You can find extra copies of The Wild Robot in your school library. And if they don't have any copies, I'm sure you can go to the public library and get one for yourself. My name again is David Badanes. Again, thank you for listening to us, and have a great day.
Thanks, everybody. Get out there, keep reading. We hope you enjoyed the story. I'm David Stein. Thanks from both of us. Have a great day.